And we are live. Welcome to lunchtime. I am so glad to have each of you here today. It's going to be a wonderful time. We are going to talk about the five best plans to crush for the holiday. And you know what? The holidays are going to be here faster than you think. And there's just so much that we need to do. And we also need to take into consideration the fact that um, some things are going to be easy to find, some things may not be so easy. So, we're going to be talking about those things, and I'm going to be asking you some very pertinent questions. And I hope you're going to fill up this chat box with lots of information. And certainly, I'm hoping that you'll take the time to put your feelings into the comment box for those of you who may not be a part of the chat and later on to come in. So, welcome to all of you because it's a fun time around this lunch table. And I think we're going to have a guest today who's going to be with us. I invited Denise Jordan with us today because, Denise and I kind of bounce things off each other quite often. So she's going to be coming into the show as well. So, we're going to get down to it today because there is a lot to do. Wonderful. I am glad to see all of you today. Now, first of all, let me ask this question. Where will your holiday, and I call it your soiree, take place? Where is it going to take place? Share with us today. Is it going to be at your house, or is it going to be whoops, let me get the right one. Okay, here we go. Or is it going to be at someone's house, a friend's house? Hello, hello. Um, where are you going to be hosting? Will you host or will someone else host? Or, I know we kind of do a dual thing where the families come together and I may take half, the other person may take half. Sometimes we'll bring in multiple families and everybody takes a portion. So, should you do that? And I know a couple of you said that you're hosting this year, and some of you are hosting anywhere from 20 and above as far as numbers of people who are going to be a part of your holiday celebration. So, as you look at that holiday celebration, I'm sure if you have accepted the task of being the host, then it's all about the location, 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 because more than likely you have the house or the where you can certainly comfortably have everyone in your house. You can set a nice table, or you may do more of a buffet and have everyone just grab a seat wherever they are and make it more relaxed because, on Thanksgiving Day, we've got the parades, we got all kinds of things that are going on. And of course, we have football. And so, as you think about where your holiday soiree is going to be, then you're going to start to think about where or make that choice as to where it's going to be because you want to have the best choice. Now, I'm going to bring in, I've got Emma who's saying that she's hosting Christmas and New Year, but there will only be six of us. Okay. Well, six is, I think, pretty easy to handle. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Ronnie said she's going to prepare Thanksgiving dinner at her house for her family and only. So that's hubby, her three boys, and maybe there may be six or seven of you. Good, good, good. That sounds great. And Sharon, let me make sure I have it right. Sharon Tech is hosting at her house. Everything's going to be at her house. So that's always a good time. And hello, hello. And so we want to be able to get started and to think about where it's going to be. Now, as you think about where it's going to be, I'm sure your next question was to ask who you were going to invite. And what always happens with us is that we have the base family. And then it seems like the base family invites other friends. They end up with other friends. So I was sharing with one of our viewers the other day through a comment that it's nothing for us to end up at home with anywhere from 30 to 35 people at one particular time. And it's fun. It's fun when you start to bring in the brothers, the sisters, the wives, the husbands, the children, and then they bring in friends, or whatever it may be. And I'm terrible for if I run into somebody I know and they say they're going to be spending the holiday alone, I'm not going to have that. They're invited to come. So we have had Thanksgivings and Christmases that have been huge just because of the fact that I didn't want anyone to be alone on those holidays. And I have certainly invited additional people to be at the table. And, that's always a great thing. But what I do like to do when I'm thinking about who's going to be invited is that I put together my own little spot in my planner for planning. And one of the pages deals with who the guests are going to be. And then that way I can start to list it out, know who to expect, know how many children there's going to be. Because usually what we do, or what we have done in the past, is that there's kind of an adult section so the adults can talk adult conversations, and then there's a children's section where the children can have a good time, giggle, wiggle, and no one's fussing because they're wiggling too much or bouncing around. So I like that. That has always worked very well for us. So that's something to take into consideration as you're planning out your holiday. Um, Now, have you put on paper your meal plan for that day? And when we say meal plan for that day, that's going to include breakfast. If you're doing more of a brunch, then of course whatever that brunch is going to be, probably it's going to look pretty much like the normal Thanksgiving meal, and or maybe a little later brunch, and then just figuring that everybody will snack the rest of the day on whatever's left over. And of course you have desserts and those kind of things that are sitting around. But those are things you have to plan for. Now, I also plan when I'm making this plan, I also include Black Friday, because very often we have guests who may be spending the night, or we have a group that we leave that night going to certain stores because there may be certain sales that we're trying to catch. And so I plan ahead as to what breakfast is going to be for the next day, and put together some type of crock pot meal or crock pot meal that we will need for the following day. So after we finish our shopping escapades and finally tumble in, then the crock pots are turned on, and when it's time for dinner, it's just a matter of grabbing a plate, grabbing a bowl, grabbing a drink, and everybody can just sit down. Now I'm looking, I see oh, this is nice. This is nice. Elizabeth said she just logged on and she's learning that we're talking about Thanksgiving. Yes, it is. It's my favorite as well. Elizabeth says she always has a plan. She made notes on last year's plan after Christmas so that she could tweak it for this year. I love it. I love it. I like how you think. I like that. And let's see, we've got our guest with us, and I'm going to bring her in. Hello, hello.
Hey, how are you doing? I'm
I'm
sorry I'm
wonderful.
having technical difficulties.
That's okay. That's okay. You know, technology is crazy. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That happened to me last week, but it will get there. I know you'll be there. Did you take yourself out? Oh,
Okay,
okay. All
I
right.
was on my phone. Well, anyway, I'm here.
Okay. Well, Denise, I don't know if you could hear, even though you might not have been in. We've been talking about a couple of things that they needed to think about. One was location,
Mm-hmm.
which is always important. The second was have they started to develop their list of who's going to show up, who they're planning for, and who
Mm-hmm.
they're inviting that may be extra, so that when they can make sure one kind of has to work with the other. You know, if you have a huge crew, you got to make sure you've got a location large enough to house them, and that's something that is always fun. One of our viewers was saying that she's having close to 25 to 30.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have that many, you've got to have a substantial place to be able to have everybody. So that's something to think about as well.
Well,
Um,
Leona, let me just jump in right there
sure.
because it's something I was thinking about. And when you and I were talking on the show the other day,
Mm-hmm.
one of the ladies mentioned that she would be having lots of people over.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I do that I've learned to do is if you're having a bunch of people over for if you're having a bunch of people over for the holiday, you might need to rearrange things a little bit. Like, for example, I've got a dining room, but for some reason, nobody wants to go sit in there to eat in there. They want to be in the kitchen
Mm-hmm.
or in the family room. And of course, the men all want to be in the family room
In
where
the
the TV
family
is
room.
so they
Mm-hmm.
can watch football or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, what we do is we will rearrange the furniture in the family room so it's kind of lined up against the wall
Mm-hmm.
and put a table in there. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
can rent a 6 foot table. We'll rent a table and put a table in there, maybe even put up a couple card tables.
Mm-hmm.
We'll put up a card table or maybe about a 5 foot table, those banquet size tables for the children.
Mm-hmm.
And we will use those to give us additional space. And then that way everyone can sit down together. It's nice and cozy. So it's not like, some Pinterest perfect or
No.
McCormick Spice commercial where everybody's at one big table. Because
Mm-hmm.
most of us today don't have that kind of room.
Well, that's true. The average house is just not large enough to be able to
Mm-hmm.
do that. And I was sharing with them that usually the kids are together so they can have kid conversations. The
Mm-hmm.
fellas always want to watch the game, so they're in there with the guys. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, the ladies want to have lady conversations. And so it's funny because the ladies usually end up in the dining room. The fellas end up in the family room with the television with the big screen TV, and the kids are usually in the kitchen where they
Yeah.
can do what they need to do. And plus, if there's a spill, it won't be a big deal. You know, we can clean up the kitchen easily. So, but all of that we need to, we have to plan in advance
Plan
to
ahead.
have it ready. Now, one thing too was I've got a question for our viewers to ask. Do you think, now you know I have an answer, and I'm sure Denise has an answer already. Is it too early to start picking up your holiday grocery items? Tell me what you think in the description box. Or have you already started picking up your holiday items? And because I'm thinking, first of all, you need your menu. You need your menu.
Mm-hmm.
And I see, let's see who's jumping in here. I see Ronnie said she makes a simple dinner. She has turkey, ham, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, ooh, cornbread, stuffing, candied yam. Oh, that's simple. Right, Ronnie. That's real simple. Pecan pie and apple pie. Yummy. All of that sounds good. And
Mhm.
Patricia's saying that it's absolutely not too early to start shopping now. And Patricia, you are absolutely right. Um, I just about an hour before we started the show today, I went over to the grocery to pick up just a couple of fresh items. And I tell you what, I think the grocers are all on the same page we're on because our needs for our dressings, all those kind of things are already in the store. And so my suggestion is that if you're not thinking about it, this
Right.
month is it. Start shopping now. And I'm going to share something with you that I found. I went to the turkey industry to find out what was going on with our birds. And it was interesting. There's been a bird flu breakout. And the flu breakout was not just in the United States, it was in Canada. And, of course, birds don't stay in one place, so they traveled. And unfortunately, the Turkey Association said that they are concerned. And the
Mm.
reason they're concerned is that normally they would have more than enough turkeys to supply all of us with a turkey for Thanksgiving and a turkey for Christmas without a problem. But this year, because of the breakout of the bird flu, that unfortunately they're not even sure they're going to have enough birds for Thanksgiving. And
Really?
yeah,
Mm.
and they were saying that normally when something like that happens, because they have a bird flu breakout every now and then anyway,
Mhm.
but normally when that happens, it's not both the United States and Canada. They're able to
Exactly.
contain it fast enough. So one can kind of help the other as far as the supply and demand goes. So they were suggesting that if you normally order a fresh turkey, buckle your seatbelt
Mm.
because the prices are probably for the fresh turkeys going to triple.
Triple. I figured they would be up, but now tripling was
Me,
not something I anticipated. I usually buy a frozen turkey.
me too.
I've only gotten a fresh turkey when I
Hmm.
forgotten to get my frozen one, and then I had to
Hmm.
run out at the last minute and get a fresh.
Yeah.
However, that is something to think about. And then I like the fact that you're introducing the possibility of there not being enough for Thanksgiving.
Hmm.
Because usually what I'll do is I'll get two at Thanksgiving when they're on
Me too.
sale and have
Hmm.
one for Thanksgiving and have one for Christmas. Because at Christmas
Hmm.
time, hams are on sale, but not turkeys.
Right.
So what I might have to do this year, if I'm able to get one for Thanksgiving, since
Hmm.
I'm not going to be home for Thanksgiving, I can
Hmm.
put that one in the freezer and then pull that one out for Christmas.
That's true.
But for those of you who are unable to find a turkey, my other go-to option is to get a large roasting chicken. Get
Absolutely.
a
Our
whole
two.
chicken,
Yeah.
maybe roast two of them,
Hmm.
and you can do everything to the chicken that you would normally do to the turkey and have a beautiful Thanksgiving dinner. And you don't have to have turkey. And there's probably some cultures in this country who celebrate Thanksgiving, but they don't have turkey dinner on their table.
No, no, no. Turkey just seems to be the traditional thing that's been picked up and continued. And
Mm-hmm.
I see that Ronnie, this is funny. Ronnie said, nope, wrong one. Charmaine said that she is planning to start this week. Ronnie says she guess she's going to camp out at her Walmart in her Walmart parking lot, wait for the turkey delivery truck. I'm with you. I'm with you
Well,
there.
exactly, because remember, if
Mhm.
you guys think back a few months ago when I was trying to get whole chickens, I went to Walmart a couple times and they didn't have any. And the meat guy came out and he said they only got 9 delivered and somebody came in and bought all 9. He was thinking probably some kind of a restaurant or something like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
But so, Ronnie, you got a good idea there.
Yeah, yeah. That's something to think about. Emma's asking, Emma's in the UK. She said, can you order them from local farmers or do we have to get them from the supermarkets? Well, I
Mhm.
guess if you happen to know of local farmers who may have them available, you could certainly do that.
Mhm.
And you just pay whatever it is they have. Now, I'm
Right.
a frozen turkey girl, but certainly, um, if you prefer a fresh turkey, then that's an option.
Well, and here's the thing too. They tell us to make friends of our local farmers, particularly
Hmm.
if you need fresh eggs and
Hmm.
fresh milk and cheese and things like that. But
Hmm.
and I live in Indiana, so I'm in the heart of the breadbasket. We grow
Hmm.
hogs, we grow soy, and we
Hmm.
do dairy and that kind of thing. But
Hmm.
I do live in the city. So I
Hmm.
don't know any local farmers. Now, when my husband was still working, there were several guys who farmed that worked with him. And so we would go
Oh.
in with a couple of people and buy a half
Hmm.
a cow or buy a half a
Hmm.
pig or something like that. But now all those guys have retired. We
Hmm.
don't know any farmers. So I'm stuck with whatever Kroger's has. Now I may go to Walmart, but my go-to is Kroger. But we
Right.
do have a couple of local butcher shops here that aren't
Hmm.
far away. And you can order your turkeys and things like that early at the
Hmm.
butcher shop. So don't rule them out.
That's true. That's true. And you may even be able to go to your local grocery store and get on the list for the turkeys.
Oh, hadn't
Because
thought
I
about
know,
that.
yeah, one of our stores I know in particular, you can do that. And in fact, you give them your name, you give them
Hey,
your
honey.
number, and they'll call you when the turkeys are in, and they give you so many hours to come and get it, and you're good
Mhm.
to go. Now, Denise, I'm giggling.
Well,
Uh,
I asked him to turn it down. He's like, no, you talking too loud. So I thought, let me
it's
just go and
okay.
let him
It's okay. Let's see. Let me go down. It was Elizabeth. Okay, Emma says she likes the idea of adding one item to your shopping list now. That is
Mhm. Mhm.
absolutely a good idea. And things like depending upon the size of your freezer, that's the other thing that you have to take into consideration.
Yes.
If you have one refrigerator with one freezer, then what I used to do was to kind of designate a shelf, and that designated shelf got the
Mhm.
turkey and whatever else I needed to get in there. And at that particular time, I probably didn't prep as much just
Yes.
because I didn't have the space to be able to do that. But now, we're going to talk about prepping and what some of the things we can prep and how easy it is to do a lot of our dinner in advance. Now, this is another question for you. How many of you, if you're having a fairly substantial group, it doesn't have to be anything over four, are you doing all the cooking, or are you sharing the job? Because sometimes
Mhm.
I opt to do it all just because sometimes people are traveling, and
Mhm.
I don't want them worried about what we're going to eat, those kind of things, are trying to purchase. So if everyone's local, then each household gets an item, and we decide on who makes the best macaroni, who
Mhm.
makes the best green beans, who makes the best greens, the
Mhm.
cornbread dressing, whatever. Now, I, as the hostess, always handle the meat,
Yes.
just because I don't want anyone to have to travel with those kind of things, not even around the block. Do you want to have to
Mhm.
carry a turkey? But, your green vegetables, you can certainly tell who'd like to do that and share that. And and for those of you who haven't hosted before, I can tell this story. Denise is going to giggle. When we first got married, we married in November 12th.
Oh.
Thanksgiving was just a matter of a couple of weeks. Guess who ended up having Thanksgiving at their house.
Why did you host Thanksgiving your very first year being married? Were you crazy?
I was. I was. I, I looked around and all my husband. I'm the only child, so
Mm.
my husband's the oldest of six. They all looked at him and said, "Oh, well, now you can have Thanksgiving." And
And
of
you said,
course,
"Oh, sure."
I said, "Oh yeah, we can." Thinking that everybody was going to bring everything but the turkey, and they didn't.
Oh, well, you know what, Leona? I think that's a good story, and then a good story and a good lesson for our young homemakers out there, and
Mhm,
even for our seasoned homemakers, because possibly if you had asked them to bring something,
mhm,
they might have, or if
mhm.
you had made it clear that sure, we're going to host, but the expectation is that you participate by doing this. But if you don't say something, they just figure you going to do it all.
You're absolutely right.
So how did it
And
turn out? Did you leave the gizzards in the turkey?
oh, it was perfect. You know what I
Oh,
did? I called my mom. I said,
mm.
"Mom, I need you to spend the night, and we're going to cook Thanksgiving dinner." And so she said, "Oh, okay." And so she would have been there anyway. But
Hmm.
between the two of us, we had this. I had one little stove. My kitchen at that point was probably more like a closet, and it was that tiny.
Were you guys in an apartment or did you have a little house?
Well, we had a little house,
Hmm.
and it was just enough room. There was the refrigerator, the stove, there was this much counter,
Hmm.
and the sink. That was it. And but
Hmm.
you know what? We had an almost 30-pound turkey. We had
Wow.
all the dressing, but we had almost 40 people in the house.
Oh my goodness.
We
Well,
It was the most fun ever. Now, was I exhausted when it was all over with? Yes,
yes.
yes. But it really was a good time. And I say to any young homemaker, I had to stretch myself. Those things, Pepperidge Farm, those little Pepperidge Farm packages that you get
Yes.
for the dressing. I used that along with some cornbread, good
Hmm.
old Jiffy, threw all that together, got the dressing ready. And, I learned very quickly, but I was also right there with my mom who already knew what
Yes.
to do. So that helped because you had someone with you who could help you through it. And that's certainly something that if you can, if this is your first time to host, then have try to solicit somebody to come in who knows what they're doing, and they can just kind of be there to answer questions, and you're doing the work and they're
Hmm.
helping.
And
And
it
so
can be your mom, it can be a cousin, a friend,
absolutely,
it can be whoever you have. Because we don't all have our parents now,
that's right.
but it can be whoever you have. And some of us may have our parents, but they don't know those answers either. So it can be
Mhm.
whoever you have. And if push comes to shove, Miss Leona and myself, we're going to be having videos about how to
That's
make
right.
different things. So you can always tune into our channels and let us help you out with that. And I think when you were asking earlier, like, do you like to cook it all? I used to like to do it all, but I
Hmm.
just don't have the energy to do it all anymore. But if I'm
Hmm.
cooking at home,
Hmm.
um, like my sisters will come. And so, like, my one
Hmm.
sister, she's a potato salad maker. So she always
Hmm.
brings potato salad. My
Hmm.
sister, Mickey Blue Skies, she always brings the sweet potatoes, the candied sweet
Hmm.
potatoes.
Hmm.
And then my sister Tina, who lives in Delaware, if she comes home, she always makes the fruit salad.
Aw.
Yeah, and then my son, if him and his family come, his wife, she likes to make some kind of a Brussels sprouts dish. So it's
Hmm.
like an
Hmm.
introduction to what we typically do because that's
Hmm.
what her family usually
Hmm.
did. So now I've got family members that look for what is Charity going to make that Brussels sprout dish? You know, that kind of
Hmm.
thing. So when you were talking about making your list and planning ahead early and thinking about what you're going to have, you probably have the same things every year. Because my
That's
mom, every
right.
year, she'd say, well, what are we going to have? And I said, Mom, we have the same thing every year. Ever since I can remember Thanksgiving, which I can go back to 5 or 6 years old, having
That's right.
Thanksgiving at her mother's house, we always had the same thing. We still have the same thing now that we had 70 years ago for Thanksgiving. But each new family member will maybe introduce a little something special.
Mhm,
So be
mhm.
open to that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the fun part is too, now we usually leave desserts open.
Mm.
Everybody brings a dessert, no
Hmm.
matter what. Everybody brings a dessert. So you end up with just a variety of
Hmm.
desserts. Now, I used to be very about it and say it has to be a homemade dessert.
Girl.
And well, that's exactly what I got. Are you kidding? I can go to Sam's and get a pumpkin pie, and and Sam's. I'm not putting Sam's down because those pumpkin pies are delicious.
Girl, don't you bring no Patty's sweet potato pie to my house.
Oh,
You better make that sweet potato pie yourself. Otherwise, I can get Patty's any time of the year. So you make your own sweet potato pie. Now, my family doesn't care much for pumpkin. Now, when I was a
right.
kid, I couldn't tell the difference between pumpkin or sweet potato. They all taste the same to
Mhm,
me, and I like them
mhm,
both. To this
mhm,
day, I still like them both.
mhm,
My grandchildren will eat pumpkin pie because, of course, that's what they hear about at school and stuff. So I will
mhm,
make it. I make at least one because I like to have
uh-huh,
it, and I like the kids to be able to say they had pumpkin pie too. But my
uh-huh.
bigger kids, they just want sweet potato or
Yeah.
pecan pie, or I usually will
Mhm,
have an apple. So
mhm.
pecan, apple, and then my one sister would always make peach cobbler. Gotta
Ooh.
have that. And now my daughter-in-law, one of my daughter-in-laws who has a
Mhm.
bakery, she makes all kinds of desserts. So now she'll bring the desserts,
Oh,
several different kinds.
oh, that's nice. That
Girl,
is
I'm
so
getting
nice.
hungry.
And those kind of things, and that's the fun of it, just anticipating what they're going to bring.
Yeah.
And it is a lot of fun, and those holidays are always a good time. Now, so we know we need to start shopping now for
Right.
those big ticket items as we find them.
Hmm.
And because we number one, we need to buy it when we see it, because heaven only knows what the price is going to be by the time
Yeah.
November comes. So let's jump on that now.
And
Now,
that's a good way to inflation proof your budget, Leona. As you
mhm,
just said, buy it when you see it, because
mhm,
heaven only knows what it's going to cost then, or
mhm,
whether or not you can find it. Because I had trouble
exactly.
finding the Pepperidge Farm cornbread stuffing mix. And
Mhm,
if my husband goes to the store, or if my son-in-law goes to the store,
mhm.
they're going to bring back Pepperidge Farm stuffing mix, but it's not the cornbread stuffing mix. And so you
Oh,
get a completely different texture
right.
and flavor.
Mhm,
So I try to
mhm.
look for that myself. Like if there's things that I
Absolutely.
know you got to play search and seize,
Mhm,
I start working on those things early. So I guess you
mhm.
might want to start with preparing your menu
Yes,
and then that shopping list that
and
you're
your
so good
shopping
about
list.
doing a month in advance. You are
Oh
so good
yeah.
at that.
Yeah, and in fact, I have my menu plan already together, and we'll be showing that a little bit later, as well as what the grocery shopping list is looking like. And I
Hmm.
and what I've started doing is that I kind of lay both of them side by side and just start to write out those things that you need, because it's not just finding the green beans or finding the greens or the turkey or whatever it is, but think about your seasonings. I
Oh,
looked at
yes.
seasoning today, and some of those seasoning, the prices that are on there, I
Cinnamon sticks.
it's crazy. And especially if you are the home cook that likes a particular brand of seasoning.
I like McCormick.
Me too. Me too. And in Virginia, Sours is the one that everybody likes there
Hmm.
because the Sours factories are there. And
Oh.
so but it's not easy to find. They go off the shelf just like that, and you can't order them online. So no. So those spices that you know you want, get it now. Get it
Mm-hmm.
now. That's all I can say. Get it now. Now, here's another thing. Now, I started working on a video looking at prepping our
Oh,
freezer foods and prepping the vegetables that we're going to need
I
for.
started doing some of that after
Mhm,
you talked about how you will prep your carrots, your
mhm,
celery, your onions. And so since you told me about that, I've
mhm,
started now. I haven't
mhm,
started it for Thanksgiving yet. I've started it for
mhm,
like Sunday dinner and stuff.
mhm,
But so
mhm.
thank you for that tip. So keep talking about that because I'm learning that.
Well, I certainly have. I bought. You'll laugh. I bought 3 bags of onions, and
Ooh,
that,
3 bags.
three today, and but I'll be using them between now
Yeah, we
and.
use them up so quick.
But I went ahead and picked them up. They were a good price, and because the last month when I went to the grocery store, I couldn't find an onion. Not in a
Really?
bag, not a bag of onion. I could find them loose, but
Mm-hmm.
not bagged. And so I thought, oh, while they're here, let me grab quite a few. So today I'm gonna I'm gonna be chopping and slicing and doing all of those kind of things, and I'm gonna throw them in the freezer so that I have them. And when you do those kind of things, you want to be able to put them in a small enough quantity. And like the chopped onions, I typically put them in a container that holds about a cup,
Mm-hmm.
because typically whatever you're preparing, just for a normal dinner,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to need about a cup, maybe maybe a half, but about
Do
a
you
cup.
put them in a baggie or a container?
Well, the cups I usually put in actual containers, like the
Can I see one?
Rubbermaid freezer containers. And
Mm.
but if I'm doing a mass quantity, I put it in those large gallon freezer bags.
Can you grab one
And
of your Rubbermaid freezer containers?
sure,
Yeah,
sure.
I'll keep talking while you go
Yeah,
get it.
go
But
ahead.
I just thought it would be good if our young homemakers could see those, because then they can start picking up some of those things themselves. And then you can probably put it in your description box. But
I will. And in fact, I think I've
okay.
already got it in there. Now
And
this
those
is
are disposable too, aren't they?
no, this is the Rubbermaid, and
Oh,
you can use it over and over again. But
okay.
this one holds 2 cups exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can fill up as many of these, and they're usually, you can get these at the Dollar Tree. And
Oh,
oh yeah, at the Dollar Tree, and they really do last quite a while. And so you figure if you can put together, say, 10 of these,
mm-hmm.
and have them in your freezer ready to go. Then you just pop one out. And in these, typically what I do is that I'll take a couple out for the week. And then that way I have them already ready to use in whatever I'm going to cook that week. Now, for Thanksgiving, because I know I'm usually using a larger quantity of onions or celery or whatever it is, that's when I'll go to the bags.
Okay.
And I usually put them most of the time in quart bags, quart freezer
Mm-hmm.
bags, because I can flatten them out, stuff them as much as you can, get as much of the air out as possible, and flatten them. Well, I flatten them as I zip them.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way I freeze them flat. And you can actually just break off
Oh.
however much you need. You don't even have to worry about trying to wait for it to thaw. So if you need a handful of onions for whatever
Mhm.
the dish is, just break them, break easily, and throw it in the dish. And so,
I love the ideas, Leona. That
yeah, so that works
yeah.
out great. So I do that with onions, the celery. I do the carrots. Now,
Mm-hmm.
in our household, I have to grate the carrots
Oh,
because we have we have some anti-carrot people, and they will tolerate it if it's teeny tiny. But to see a cube of carrot, they're gonna run.
girl, my oldest son to this day, I can make a beef stew, I can make chicken and whatever, have carrots in it. He is 50 years old now. He will sit at that table and pick every carrot out of the plate. If
Really?
they're like in cubes,
Mm-hmm.
or you just kind of like if they're in cubes. Now if they're diced up pretty small,
Mm-hmm.
he'll either scooch around it or he'll go ahead and eat it. But if they're big enough to pick out, he will do that. So I like the idea of grating the carrots. Do you put that in your stuffing?
I do. I do.
Mhm.
I tend to throw things in the stuffing that I think are going to be healthy,
Yeah,
and that because you have so many things in the stuffing, it's not going to be as obvious.
right.
And
Sneaky, sneaky, sneaky.
slide it in if you can. And so I usually throw a little carrot in there. As of course, the celery. The celery even has to be very small as
Oh
well.
yeah, because if it's green, it's a
Oh,
pickle. So I
oh,
gotta hide
they're
that
not
too.
gonna eat it. They're not gonna eat it. So everything that's gonna go in the stuffing is gonna be teeny, teeny, tiny,
Hmm.
and so it's
Well, and
it's.
you know what? The other thing, if it's teeny,
Mhm,
teeny, tiny, you can just bake it and it'll cook while you
mhm,
bake it. But if it's
mhm.
larger, you have to saute
You
it
have
first.
to saute.
So if you get it teeny tiny, you don't have to worry about that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, do you do your dressing in advance or you do it the day of?
I usually will make my dressing the day of, but what
Mhm,
I've tried to do is I will try to prep the veggies the day before. I
mhm,
will make the cornbread the day before so that it's
mhm.
good and
Dry
cold and
out.
it's
Mhm,
nice, and I can just crumble it up and it crumbles up nicely. If you
mhm,
make it the day of, then you got to let it cool off and dry
mhm,
out enough so your dressing's not heavy. And
mhm,
then I will make the dressing like I will put the turkey in, and then once the turkey's out, I will take some of the drippings off the turkey. Maybe I'll take a good quart
mhm,
of broth off the turkey, and I will use that for the
mhm,
dressing. But now, if I'm making chicken, a roast chicken or something
mhm,
like that ahead of time,
mhm,
I will save that broth and put it in the freezer. So when
mhm,
I'm ready to make my dressing, I could make it ahead if I've got that dripping off of a chicken or another turkey. But if
mhm.
I don't, then I'll wait until that day.
Yeah, I have done. Well, I can tell you, I usually do put the dressing together probably a week in advance
Oh.
and freeze it,
Mm-hmm.
and then that way it's it's
But it's
all
not
together.
baked or it's baked.
It's not baked. It's
Okay.
not baked, and I'll freeze it.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it's a gigantic pan, pan of dressing, and just cover it well, wrap it, and put it in the freezer and have it out of the way. I do the dressing, the macaroni and cheese, the now
Greens.
the oh yeah, the greens will be done 2 months
Mm-hmm.
ahead. Greens and green beans will be out of the way.
Yeah, because
Uh,
greens freeze up nicely.
Absolutely. And actually, the ham, you can go ahead and bake. That way, you only have to take it out a couple of days in advance, let it thaw. And if you want to run it, what I do is take mine off the bone. If you get a
Ah.
spiral hand, I take it off
Mhm.
the bone, put it in a pan, cover it with foil, and just let it go in the oven for a few minutes, just long enough for it to really warm up
To warm
nicely,
up. Yeah.
and then bring it on out. And all that's done. It's done
Mhm.
and ready to go. So that's something you don't have to do that day. But the turkey I do during the night
My mom
before.
used to do that. She would put the
Mhm,
turkey on at night and let it cook
mhm,
all night. I
mhm,
don't like to do that. I like to make my turkey. Like I'll get up early, maybe I'll get up around
mhm,
6 that morning and
mhm,
I'll put it in the oven because I like to have the turkey out at least by noon so
mhm,
that I can bring it out, let it sit and let it
mhm,
rest. And
Mm-hmm.
then anything that's got to go in the oven, I can put it in the oven because we usually have dinner at 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm. We do
So
too.
if I get that turkey in and out by noon, then anything else
Mm-hmm.
that needs to go in the oven, then I've got space to do
That
that.
space to do
But
that.
yeah, I
Yeah.
like to make but now let me tell you that one year my husband's brothers were here from Georgia. We had a house full of people, and
Mm-hmm.
I put the turkey in that morning, and I don't know what had happened. I don't know if I got it in late, but girl, it was 2 o'clock, and I'm like, Lord Jesus, this turkey is not gonna be ready.
Oh no.
Went to my freezer. I took out 2 chickens, thawed them out in the microwave, ran them underwater, got them thawed out, and I kind of cooked them on top of the stove. Like I put them
Mm-hmm.
in my large Curtis stone pan, cut them
Mm-hmm.
up in pieces, put all the onions and celery, just like if I was going to roast them. Only I did
Mm-hmm.
that roasting on top of the stove so that the
Mm-hmm.
chicken was done. Well, it turned out the turkey was done in time. Some people wanted the chicken instead of the turkey, but I tell you what, it's like, look, I make sure to get that turkey in no later than 10 o'clock in the morning because I thought it's
Yeah.
got to be out, depending upon the size. I thought
Yeah.
it's got
Yeah.
to go in early so they can come out.
Hmm. Well, I always do. I put it in. Actually, the big guy puts it in because he's the last one usually up, and he'll put it in maybe about 1 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm usually up by 5. So
Oh,
by the time I get up at about 5, then it's usually ready. Now, what I will do if it's tinted, which it usually is, then I will take the foil off
mm-hmm.
and let it stay in there long enough to get for the skin to get nice and crispy and brown,
Nice and
and
crispy.
then bring it on out. And so, and of course, we eat anywhere. Sometime we'll eat early, more
Mm-hmm.
like 1 o'clock, and
I'm never ready that early.
well, not it depends. It depends. In today's world, probably not. I wouldn't be ready, but usually it's funny. We have dueling turkeys, and because my daughter has a certain kind of turkey that she likes to make,
Mm-hmm.
my son has a certain kind of turkey he likes to make, and I have my turkey that I like to make. So we all three do our turkeys. So all of those turkeys come in, and the trick is that all the turkeys out, everybody's on their platter. They don't know who's prepared what, and by the end of the day, we can look at the platters and tell whose turkey was the best.
Oh no, that's
And
too funny.
it's always so funny because after dinner is all over with, the three of us are usually in the kitchen going, well, let's see who's still got a lot of turkey left. And usually it's so funny because usually all three are about the same, where
Mm-hmm.
people have just devoured the parts that they like, and
Yeah, yeah.
all of that. And what I like to do, and this is something I don't know, some of you may do this, we ask guests to bring a couple of empty food containers. And
Good
then that
idea.
way, and I'm going to show you these. These are from the Dollar Tree, from the Dollar Tree.
That's really a good idea because everybody wants to take a plate home. And I don't
Absolutely.
have any, I try not to have any containers left around. I just get
Right.
rid of them. But
Well,
that's
these
a good
these are the
idea.
ones that Dollar Tree carries. These are
Mm-hmm.
Rubbermaid, and I'm trying to see I don't know what the quantity is, but it's the perfect size. Say if it's you and your husband, then
Mm-hmm.
you have one, hubby has one, and you put whatever you want in each one, and then they're ready to go home.
That's a
And
good idea.
for $2, it's so easy to do. So I usually try to keep a lot of these. So in case somebody
Mm-hmm.
forgets them, I can send them home with those containers, and they'll have them
I
because
have to get some of those for the holiday because I think most of the containers I have now are my Rubbermaid Brilliance containers.
Mhm,
And I try not to send those out of the house. I'll send them
right.
to Blue Skies because she's good at
Hmm.
getting everything back.
Hmm.
But I like to send those other containers you were looking
Right.
at that time. So those are things that probably we should put on our list is
Absolutely.
disposable containers, for
Hmm.
takeaway or takeout.
Takeaway. And it's
Yeah.
but of course, ask them to bring them, but
Hmm.
somebody's going to forget. And then
Hmm.
that way, if they want a little turkey, a little dressing, a little green beans, or whatever it is, they can get all that in there.
Yeah.
And if they want
With
some
a
dessert,
lid.
then they have a little container for dessert. And so that helps to do
Hmm.
all of that. One other thing, and I'll have to talk fast because man, our time is flying. Um, Now is also the time, and you'll want to try to do this as soon as you start to see these things come out. Now's the time to start picking up your needed tools for the kitchen. So that includes, and I put some of these out just for those who are the young homemakers who may not have them, or you may. And if you do, just know this is what we're going to be using too. I'm starting with the crock pot. Now,
Oh.
our crock pots come in so many different sizes.
Hmm.
And this particular crock pot, oh my Lord, I've had it for you name it for a very long time.
Hmm.
And in fact, when I purchased this, I didn't even know that you had crocks now that could be removed. That's how long I had the one I had before.
Hmm.
So when you're shopping, even if you're going to a discount store, because discount stores have them, make sure that you can take your crock out to
Yes.
clean it. That's important. So that's a big one. That's an 8 quart.
That's a big one.
But if you need something smaller, and I usually set my buffet up with crock pots so that things can stay hot. I like the food hot. So then you have the smaller crock.
Oh, I like that
And this
size.
is a 3 or 4 quart, but
Hmm.
it's perfect for like your green vegetables, those
Hmm.
kind of things, whether it's greens, because typically I know my greens are usually in a huge soup pot. And so then that way I can fill this and refill and restock as
Hmm.
needed. So that way you'll have a smaller one and it won't take up as much room on your buffet table.
Hmm.
And, I keep saying buffet table because by the time you get all the people in, 9 times out of 10, your dining room table is going to be taken. You're not going to
Yeah.
have a lot of real estate left. So once those plates and cups and glasses and all those things are out, you're ready to go. You've got to have a place to be able to store your food. Also, you will want to get, and I do have all of this down in the description box. These are slow cooker lunch.
Yes.
Now, um, down in my Amazon, this particular package came with 20. You have 10, you get 2 packages, you have 10 in each package. This is going to
Uh,
last you a while because I promise you, you will not use 10 Thanksgiving Day and
no.
Christmas Day. But during the holiday, you're going to want to work that slow cooker as much as you can because you're going to be trying to get the meal ready. So you're trying to save yourself.
Hmm.
And like I said, on Black Friday, we were saying early, I think before you came in, I was telling them that when I'm making that meal plan for the actual holiday, I also plan the meal for Black Friday because we usually go out late at night. And by the time we get back, we don't want to have to cook. So
Yeah.
we just throw whatever it is into the crock pot and we're ready to go. So dinner's already ready to go on the table. But I was looking today and I'm telling my secret place. Went to Ross. Ross already has holiday things out, both
Really?
for Thanksgiving as well as for Christmas. And so now it's a time that if you're like I am, I know we have the nice white luncheon napkins. We can do that, but I like color. I want it to
Yeah.
look pretty, and because of the size of our group, I want paper, paper
Well,
napkins.
you know what? Yeah. paper napkins, and I like
Mhm.
to get the ones that has some kind of Thanksgiving motif on the
Mhm.
napkin. So I usually will get mine at Hobby Lobby,
Mhm.
and they'll have the napkins and the dessert napkins,
Mhm.
sometimes even the paper plates and all those
Yes.
things. So I'll try to get all those at Hobby Lobby because I can get
Mhm.
everything that coordinates.
Right there
And
together.
they're nice and heavy and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
used to like to use my china or my
Mhm.
good plates, but my
Mhm.
sisters are like, look, you get that china out, we're not gonna wash the dishes. And now I was like, okay, one year we had paper plates. Girl, it was so easy with cleanup. I'm like, oh, we're gonna have paper plates every year from
All
now.
the time.
So I save the china now if it's just like six or less. If it's just a private dinner, just me and the hubby and a few friends, I might get the good china out then.
Mhm.
Other than that, if it's a big group, paper plates are really your friends. So for you young
Absolutely.
homemakers out there, get something pretty that's
Mhm.
disposable. Now, if you want to use your wedding china, have maybe a of friendsgiving dinner or a
Right.
dinner where maybe you just have maybe two couples over for dinner and you
Mhm.
get out your good stuff then.
Mhm. Mhm.
But if you got a lot of people coming over,
Oh.
there's disposable paper
Mm-mm.
plates and disposable plastics that are
Mhm.
really attractive, and it's a
Mhm.
lot more cleanup friendly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We try our best to have the pots and pans as close to being all cleaned up before we all
Yes,
sit
clean
down
as
to
you go.
dinner. And certainly, as people are finishing, throw those plates and be sure to have extra plates and napkins because they're going to go back for dessert. Oh, that's a big guy. Um, they're going to go back for dessert. They're going to snack later, and you're going to need extra plates. So
Yeah.
you definitely want to have additional items.
Hmm.
So those are things to think about and things to pick up as well. Decide now. I typically set my Thanksgiving table probably about 3 weeks in advance.
Hmm.
Everything but putting the actual plates out. And but the table itself with the tablecloth and the placemats, all those things, it's already done. Then that way I know what I'm going to be doing. I've got
Hmm.
everything right there. And anything I forget, I've got time enough if I have to
Yes.
go and get it. So that's really what you're thinking at this point. Plan ahead because I promise you, there's always going to be that one little thing that you're going to forget. And so, if you can really have a good, well developed list, a well developed plan, then your holiday is going to be one that at the end, when you sit back in your comfy chair with whatever beverage of choice that you like, and mine is going to be hot apple cider, then I can sit back and comfortably take that breath. And it is
Hmm.
going to be a good time. It's going to be a good time. Well, Janice, they are over there and they are talking up a storm.
I
Let's see
can't
what
see
they're
the
saying.
comments. Let me look.
Let's see. Let's see. Deb says she has containers because they have college students, so she lets them load up fast. That's a
Okay.
first. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Um, Kim is saying she said because she's a seasoned cook even as a single person. She's single, but she learned from her mom and her sisters. Kim, I'm so sorry. I don't know where you are, but if you were close, I'd have you at my house because I hate when you hear of single people being by themselves for the holiday. That's just no fun.
Hmm.
Elizabeth said Big Lots is her place to go to buy paper goods.
Oh,
I do
I
too.
never think
I
about
love
that.
going to Big Lots. They have the plates, napkins, cups, the works of all different designs right there. And the prices are almost always very, very reasonable and may go with whatever your design motif is that you decide
Hmm.
that you want to work out. And Kim said the women in her family clean the kitchen at whomever's house we have
Yes.
dinner. Now, see, that is so nice.
Everybody helps.
Everybody helps. Well, mm, I can't say that always happens, but I can say if my daughter's there, she usually comes in and helps to do whatever it is.
My
I
daughter
usually,
helps now. She used to
oh,
come home and sit down, and her dad would be like, "Your mama in there in the kitchen, girl, go in there and help." So now she will come in. Now that she's got her own family and all that,
mhm.
she comes in and she helps now. That
Well,
didn't always happen.
she didn't do it when she was young. I can tell you that. Before she got married, she wasn't as diligent with doing it. She
Hmm.
would help if I asked. But as far as volunteering, no,
Hmm.
she usually had a mission. So when dinner was over with, she had somewhere to go.
Yes.
And I have to admit, I probably did the same thing when I
Oh,
was her
sure we
age.
did.
Absolutely. Well, guys, this has been so much fun.
This has
And,
been fun.
I, we are both, I know, working on um, as much as we can to be able to share with you between now and mid-November. We're going to have it. In fact, as much as we can get done in October, we're going to try our best to be able to bring to you and have all of our young homemakers all ready to go, and
Hmm.
our seasoned homemakers, whatever little tidbits we can add and help
Hmm.
with. Certainly, we want to be able to share that with you. So I just hope that each of you have enjoyed this conversation
Oh, I
today
had a good time today.
because it has been so much fun. And I want you to have a great week. And you know what? Today is National Cinnamon Bun Day, just in case you didn't know. And we fixed our cinnamon buns on Saturday, and I gave half of mine away because I knew if I didn't, we'd sit here and eat them all. So, and they really were good. So, if you haven't seen them in the community tab, certainly take a chance, take time to be able to do that. Denise, thank you so much for
You're
joining us
welcome. This was
at the lunch
fun.
table. And don't go anywhere because I got a question for you. But to the rest of you, have a blessed and wonderful day. And we'll see you very soon, right here in the kitchen of Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme.